Hello everyone and welcome back to LewisFiction and welcome to the second film in the Spider-Man cinematic universe. If you have not seen the first film, Spider-Man, make sure you go back and watch that before you watch this. But with that being said, let's get straight into this. Brothers, a Kraven the Hunter story. We cut to a snowy land, far north in Russia. A family resided, the Kravinoffs. Life was good. We focus in on Nikolai, Sergei and of course Dmitri Kravinoff. Nikolai, the father, was your stereotypical male figure, hard-hitting, brute force of a man who had done the majority of his life in the military. However, he had two sides to him. One, a caring, loving side, a side that best represented his family, and his wife, who sadly died at childbirth to their youngest, Dmitri. But he had another side, the fighter, the side that would never give up no matter what the odds. These sides were best represented through his two sons, Sergei and Dmitri. Sergei loved nature, he loved animals and always had a fascination with the way nature worked and all its wonders. Living in the far north allowed Sergei to really delve into nature and explore it in many different ways. As a child, he would always befriend the wild animals in the Highlands, big cats, wolves, even reindeer. Sergei wasn't afraid. Whereas Dmitri was the opposite and represented his father's fighting side. As a child, he took up 3 martial arts classes, wanting to become the ultimate warrior, and almost fantasized with himself about one day becoming a spy and being the master of all disguise. During this prologue type period, the film will open up showing us these traits, shining through as children. But above all, we get the sense that Sergei and Dmitri love each other. They loved each other dearly. They're brothers, and they'd do anything for each other. It was their mother's death that made them care for each other more than any other pair of brothers could. Even though Dmitri was the fighter, his older brother Sergei had commendable respect about him. As they grew up and became teenagers, he was always bigger, stronger, and more masculine. His physique was astoundingly big for his age. Dmitri was always jealous of this fact, and you could almost sense that growing up they would always bash heads at some point. And one day, they did. They fought, got into arguments on the daily. Eventually, their father had had enough. If there was one man that they both feared more than anything in the world, it was their father. He would tell them to cut it out, or they're both gone. They have to learn to respect each other for who they are. Eventually, this divide between them became too much, and their differing personalities and Dmitri's jealousy drove them apart. Sergei eventually moved out as well, moving further up the Farlands with his wife Calypso to study nature and animal behavior, and Dmitri moved into central Russia towards Moscow to work for the KGB. And that brings us to the very start of our film. Throughout the film, we will cut between both our main protagonists until they eventually meet again. We will follow Sergei first, following his life in the hills. He started to grow a reputation in and around the nearest town to him. He almost became a figure of great significance, nicknamed Kraven the Hunter. Sergei wouldn't like that name, but it would be an identity that stuck to him throughout his entire lifetime. The town would commonly see threats of bear attacks and wildcats approaching the people. Our first introduction to modern-day Sergei will be him dealing with an animal attack on the town, him calming the people and the animal, befriending it and making peace. The people will be impressed by Sergei's ability, and he'll become somewhat of a legend for this sort of behaviour. Some people would even refer to him as godlike. We will then cut over to Dmitri, training in the ways of the KGB, just as we learned he did in the first Spider-Man film. He will be nicknamed the Chameleon by his fellow spies, as he was the best at what he did. He was a fighter, and he was a damn good one too. He could trick or psychologically torture anyone he'd see fit, and would always be the first picked for a major mission. We will follow Dmitri on a mission to showcase his skills in action. When we are reintroduced to Dmitri in the modern day, he'll be on a mission with the KGB, hunting someone called the Widow. Yes, even though this is a Spider-Man universe, this will be a reference and a slight adaptation to the Black Widow character from the comics. However, she won't act anything like Natasha Romanoff. It's more of a reference more than anything. The Widow will be a notorious criminal who had been on the run from the KGB for a while. Dmitri's mission for the past several years has been to bring them in, but it's been a war on two fronts. The Widow has since begun to fight back, taking out and destroying KGB outposts and even holding KGB generals for ransom. Dmitri will finish the mission, and in a short burst of exposition, we will reveal some crucial information to the last known whereabouts of the Widow. However, the scene will be cut short when he gets called from Sergei, his brother. He hasn't spoken to his brother in years. This is weird. It must be urgent. He picks up, and that's when we get the news and the inciting incident for the film. Sergei will tell his brother nothing more than, it's their father. He's dying. We will cut to Sergei and Dmitri meeting for the first time in years. Dmitri still smaller than Sergei. In fact, Sergei was bigger. You could cut the room's atmosphere with a knife. Dmitri's jealousy bled through the screen. The camera angles and positioning of the scene will all be in favour of representing the tension and divide that still resides between the brothers. They will meet with their father, who they haven't seen in a while either. He reveals to them both that he has terminal cancer, incurable. However, the reaction that both of them will have to this turn of events will be completely different, and this is what separates these two characters throughout the film. Sergei, being the more caring and compassionate one, will want nothing more than to make his father's last few months the best he's ever had, spend more time with him and make him happy. Sergei has a burning passion from this point on to reunite as a family. However, Dmitri refuses to lose his father. The fighting spirit inside of him will want to do anything he possibly can to cure their father, saying that he has connections inside the KGB that could potentially use an early in development drug that could actually cure his cancer. Sergei will wholeheartedly disagree with this, telling his brother that if it doesn't work, all they're doing is wasting time that could have been spent with their father making new and meaningful memories. Dmitri says that they can do that for years to come if he manages to cure him. Sergei will tell his brother that he's deluded. He can't think this is a good idea, surely. Dmitri will say he's going to do everything in his power to make sure their father survives, while Sergei sits by and watches him die. Dmitri will say that he's lost all respect for his brother. The news that their father would have hoped would have brought them back together as a family has only divided them further, as Dmitri leaves the house, determined to find a cure, and Sergei sits by his father, telling him he's sorry. His father never really showed emotion, but Sergei could tell he was hurt. Nikolai says he's going to get some rest as he heads to bed. The next portion of the film, Sergei will track down Dmitri and will confront him. Sergei will find him in a bar near the outskirts of Moscow. Sergei will approach him, and Dmitri won't be happy to see him. This scene, however, will be from two perspectives. As the brothers talk with one another, the camera will be positioned in ways in which it looks like they're being watched. This will also be emphasized through the musical choice during this scene as well. Dmitri makes his intentions clear. He will find a cure for their father, and that's final. Sergei tells his brother how upset he just saw their father, and he's never seen emotion from him like that before. Sergei will tell Dmitri they are all he has left of their mother, and constantly for years their rivalry has gotten in the way of that. At least give the man something that he wants while he can still have it. Dmitri turns to Sergei and tells him he's not faking something for a dying man. Sergei slaps Dmitri around the face. The whole bar stops and stares. The POV camera angle that looked like it was watching them from a corner of the bar goes static. Even the bartender stops and looks towards Sergei. Dmitri, embarrassed, tries to fight Sergei back, using his training. However, the brute strength and force of Sergei is too much for him. His older brother comes out on top, humiliating him in the process. Sergei is calm and collected, and mostly on the defensive. Sergei will step away from Dmitri as he lay defeated on the floor. He sheepishly gets up, brushing himself down. Sergei looks around and tells everyone to get back to their drinks, as the noise rises again. Dmitri barges past Sergei as he walks outside. Sergei follows him once again, trying to convince him to come around. However, the man that was stalking them during the scene also follows them outside, and he pulls out a gun, shooting Sergei in the arm. Sergei turns around bewildered. He pulls a face of discern towards the man, who was dressed in all black, before feeling faint. It was a tranquilizer bullet. Dmitri shouts towards the man as well. However, they were both caught off guard, and Dmitri is whacked over the head as the man knocks him out. This will be the midpoint of the film, where everything turns and the film twists into something a little different. Sergei and Dmitri were so caught up on their feelings as to whose idea of what course of action to take with their father was right, that Dmitri now has taken his eye off the ball, and has been captured by a group of mercenaries. Not to mention, he's gotten his brother wrapped up in it too. The film went from whose ideology is correct to how can they get out of this situation as fast as they can to get back to their father. Even though their rivalry and their ideologies are different, they still have the same goal: get back to their father. And the twist is that they have to put their differences aside to work together for the greater good, or else neither of them will be able to enact their perfect resolution for their father's fate. Dmitri will showcase his spy knowledge by hatching a plan to escape the prison cell that they're put in. However, just before he can get them out, a guard comes to the cell door and will reveal that none other than the widow will see them now. Dmitri knew somewhere in the back of his mind that somehow the widow would be connected to all of this. Sergei will be asking who the widow is, and Dmitri will be trying to explain as quickly as possible who the widow is and what situation they're actually in as they are dragged to see her. After being taken to the widow herself, she explains that she has been watching Dmitri for the past few weeks, studying his patterns of movement until he threw a curveball and left town. It wasn't until she realized that he was seeing family that he would be the most vulnerable, so she decided to strike. Dmitri has been the main instigator against the Widow for the KGB, leading them to many victories, being at the front of that war. The Widow says that she's going to kill them both. Even Dmitri's antics couldn't get him out of this one, and that's when Sergei's brute strength comes in handy. As he breaks out of the shackles, the guards attack him, and the first big action set piece of the film breaks out. I'd like to think that most of the camera movements would be rough and handheld, really cementing this film as its own style, and differing from the Spider-Man film that would have had a lot more floaty and flowing camera movements to signify Spider-Man's heroism. However, this would be a gritty and down-to-earth story in a setting far from anything that resembles a superhero. This is a hand-to-hand, get-down-and-dirty fight scene. I imagine a lot of inspiration taken from fights such as Kingsman for the choreography, and the camera position and movements inspired by the Russo brothers from Captain America Winter Soldier and Civil War. Sergei and Dmitri escape the guards. However, the next portion of scenes will be a chase sequence from the Widow and her guards. They will have to work together and play to both of their strengths to escape the guards. Dmitri will use his chameleon-like tactics, and Kraven will use his brute force to fight off the remaining guards. When they escape the Widow's base, they will find themselves in the middle of nowhere in far north of Russia, which means they can't be far from their father's house. They both travel in the cold snow by foot until they find somewhere to rest for the night. They light a fire until a bear approaches from the wilderness. Dmitri will be afraid, but Sergei won't show the fear. He will tame the bear, and it will become friendly with them, once again showing Sergei's more compassionate and caring side. He may be a good fighter, he may be strong, but at his heart, Sergei is a lover. How good he can be with animals will be a constant reminder and representation throughout this film that Sergei wants nothing more than peace. This will be a nice scene between the brothers. It will give them a proper chance to catch up with one another in a more respectful manner. Dmitri will tell Sergei that he misses how things used to be, and Sergei will say the same. Dmitri will tell Sergei that he hates how their father dying had to be the reason for them to reunite. Sergei says it doesn't have to be. Dmitri finally realizes how much he's missed his brother, and how narcissistic he has been. However, this scene is interrupted by guards in the distance. This will then lead us on to the final portion of action for this film, where they try and escape, but are left with no choice but to fight. And thus the Widow plot will come to a close during this final battle, where Sergei will help Dmitri finally take out the Widow for the KGB. This will be a gruesome fight, and one that won't happen easily for them. However, they carry on using their brotherhood to their advantage, and their need to get back to their father as their emotional motive to defeat the Widow. After all is said and done, they finally return home to their father, and this is where everything comes full circle. Their father will have massively deteriorated, and Sergei will pull Dmitri aside. He will tell Dmitri that he's been thinking. He says he's realized something, that all this fighting that they've been doing, it's got to stop. He will tell Dmitri that he's noticed that their father doesn't care if they cure him, or just simply are there for him, because frankly, those are two things that in an ideal world, he would want. But neither of those things are the most important. Dmitri asks what is the most important, and Sergei will say them both, as brothers. He will tell Dmitri that he's realized that all their father wants for them is to be brothers again, to see them stop fighting. Whether their father dies or he doesn't, all he could want is for them to be brothers again. Sergei will tell him that it doesn't matter how it happens or what separates their ideologies, they have to learn to get along together. And that's the main theme and the main arc of these two characters, to learn to appreciate one another for who they are and where they belong, whilst also respecting each other's ideologies. Dmitri has to respect that Sergei might want to spend more time with their father, but Sergei also has to respect that Dmitri potentially would like to try and cure him as well. And with that said, Sergei will continue to stand by his father in the same way that he always wanted to, while Dmitri will carry on looking for a cure. And while their original goals stay the same, they are brothers once more. We will get a farewell scene between the brothers, as after the defeat of the Widow, Dmitri has taken a leave of absence to move to New York. A big job has come on offer for the capture of a vigilante in the city, and the main hiring pays well. Sergei will ask who's hiring, and Dmitri will say his name is the Kingpin. He says he's been offered a huge sum of money, which can be funded into a new cancer research for their father. Sergei wishes him well. They shake hands, and Sergei says be careful out there. New York is full of some weirdos nowadays. Dmitri says he will. Sergei will tell him if he needs help, give him a call. Dmitri will jokingly say he won't, and they will laugh it off together as Dmitri leaves for New York. We will close the film with Sergei leaning over Nikolai as he sleeps, weaker than ever. Sergei places his hand over his father's head and apologizes for the way that him and his brother treat each other, and will say he will do anything for family, as we end the film there. However, we will have one post-credit scene to end the film off. We will cut to a title screen 3 months later. Police sirens can be heard as we cut to Dmitri as he walks through the prison hallways at Rikers Island. We pan away from him as we exit through a TV screen reporting on the arrest of Dmitri Kravinoff, Hammerhead, Tombstone, and of course Wilson Fisk, who were all involved to be a part of the Maggia crime family. It will be revealed that Sergei is watching on the other side of this TV report as he repeats himself once more, anything for family. And we cut to black right there. Thank you for watching the second film in my Spider-Man cinematic universe. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to hit a like on it and also tell me in the comment section down below what you think. Are you excited for Spider-Man 2, which of course will feature Kraven the Hunter as the main villain? It's going to be a clash of two heroic protagonists from this universe, and we're going to see who comes out on top. However, the next film in this universe will be a film called Lincoln. It will follow an origin story for Tombstone in this universe as we see how Tombstone's criminal life affects and plays upon his family, giving us a little bit more detail to characters such as Janice Lincoln, the Kingpin, and of course Hammerhead as well. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care and peace.